All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Ephraim. Today's date is October 19th, 2022. And if you listen to the sound of my voice, you're blessed to see another day. And for that, all praise, honor, and glory is due to the Most High God of Israel. And I'm saying, Ahaya by Yeshem, Yeshua HaMashiach, Baruch Atah Adonai, Shalom, elect, and sojourners of Israel. Now, today I'm going to deal with, this information with about Louis Farrakhan and knowing the truth about who the children of Israel are. I did a video some years back on Malcolm X, same thing. Not long after he came out with that speech about, the true Israelites, being black people and all this and that, not long after he was assassinated. So I just kind of put it out there to kind of gauge, the timing of that or whatever. Staying as neutral as possible, because so many of you who've been with me for a long time pretty much know my history, know my background, and for those who don't, first of all, let me just say before I even continue on, make sure you hit that that thumbs up button, and subscribe. And when you subscribe to the channel, hit all so you get notified of all my new videos, presentations, and lessons that I upload. And just, that'll help do your part to kind of, let's get this algorithm thing, on track, to get the viewership up. So, everyone that knows me or doesn't know my background, back in the day, I used to be a 5%er of the nation of gods and earths. All right. And if any of you have heard of that, or maybe not, excuse me, 5% nation or nation of gods and earth was basically an offshoot of the Nation of Islam, started by Clarence the 13X, who used to be a follower of Elijah Muhammad, but he was going around putting a tent on the teachings, meaning he was kind of adding different things that the nation didn't like and respect, but he didn't stop teaching it. So therein lies the fact that he broke off and started the Nation of Gods and Earths. So I give a history on that, give a history on the NOI and how Brother Farrakhan came into being. And let me just say this, to all my Nation of Islam brothers out there to this day, I still got love for all y'all, even my 5%ers. Why? Because I'm from that. That's in my DNA too. Even though I'm in this truth, that was still a very part of me and my history. Back in my day, man, I was what we call Almighty God. I mastered, 120 degrees of knowledge, 120 degrees of wisdom, 120 degrees of understanding for 360 degrees, and boy, my cipher complete. That was me, man. You understand? So, I don't look down on those brothers, and this lesson is not to disrespect, the NOI or disrespect the brother minister. I mean, just like any other person, the brother minister, forget the religious part of it or whatever. He says a lot of things that's relevant to black people. I don't agree with everything he says, no, but I agree with a lot that he says, and I respect that brother as an elder. You understand? Y'all know I'm very respectful, especially for a brother like that's been putting in work for years, for our people. Does he always get everything right? Nah, neither do you, neither do I, though. And neither do our parents. We disagree with our parents, all day, right? But I want to give this lesson because, it just kind of struck me when, he gave that speech about, the children of Israel. It just really struck me. Well, if this brother knows the truth, why is he not leading, the nation in that way? I just couldn't understand that. So, we're going to deal with that. I'm going to give you a nice little backdrop. Ain't too many brothers that can really come from the perspective that I come from with my background, whatever the case may be. So I'm humbled by that. I can to this day, I can speak to a 5%er. Or a Nation of Islam Muslim, or even an Orthodox Muslim, because I was that too. When I took my Shahada, and I took the name Ahmed Shakir. I mean, I was, man, trust me, man, my journey to get to this point where I'm at right now, my brothers and sisters, and sojourners of Israel, I mean, I was all over the place, but it helped me. Helped me in understanding and gaining the knowledge of all these different organizations. So now I'm in a position where I can talk to these brothers because I've been where they've been. You understand? It's been years since I had to, know what today's mathematics was, or manifest God, speak on it, God. It's been years, but I think back on it in fondness though, because there was some good times in my young life, man, along my journey. The Most High had me on to get me to this point. So I don't look down on those brothers. I was too one of them. I'm saying? I'm from that cloth. 5% all day. But I'm walking in this truth now in terms of who I am and who the Most High called me to be, and my search for Him. I went through all those different levels. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the lesson. And again, I hope you all enjoy it. I want to give a thorough review and overview before I kind of get into it or whatever. Well, let's go ahead and get into it, man. And until next time, let's talk to E signing off. Saying Hayya by Yeshem Yeshua HaMashiach Baruch Atah Adonai. Shalom, elect.
My inspiration to kind of do this lesson. But I want to preface by saying, first and foremost, as I've said before several times, my journey has been like no other. Like seriously, I've done, for a man my age, I mean, there's people that much older than me that hasn't done half the things I've been able to do in my life by grace, mercy, and Most High. And I say that because with that comes a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge about different things, not just one particular thing, because I feel like if you're just stuck on one thing or one person, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because one thing I do agree with, it says the Bible says you must study to show yourself approved, and I believe that. I believe you have to. And when I say that, I don't mean by just jumping from person for listening to everything that everyone has to say. No, because that could be detrimental too. Because you got to be careful what you let people when people speak into your spirit. You have to be careful who you let do that. So that's why you have to try their spirit and discern whether they're of God or something else. But before I start the lesson, like I said, the brother minister knew the truth, and I'm confused as to why he still has the nation still going on, yet knows the truth. But with that said, and again, because I am who I am, I'm uniquely qualified to do this lesson. I'm still, regardless of where I am right now, I'm still a branch off of that tree as being a former member of the nation of gods and earths, right? So I feel like, I am uniquely qualified to question or speak about what I need to speak about. I'm not getting into any kind of gossip and, conspiracy theories and all that. I'm dealing strictly and exclusively with the fact that, Brother Minister gave a speech, and, I'm going to dissect all of that. And clearly, and he's an intelligent brother. He's an intelligent brother. He really is. I mean, I have a lot of respect for him from a social standpoint. He's got a lot of wisdom. A lot of wisdom. See, I don't look at him just as a so-called, as a religious figure. I look at him as an elder, as a very wise man. So with that said, with his wisdom, I mean, the brother, I think he can play the piano, the violin, if I'm not mistaken. He speaks Arabic. I wouldn't be surprised if he speaks Hebrew. So clearly he's a very multicultural, intelligent, and wise brother. So I have, I did this lesson because I wanted to question some things. And before I even get into that, to many of you who have no idea about, the Nation of Islam, where it came from, how it started, this and that, all the little moving parts, I'm going to give you a basic thesis, a very, I'm not going to give you a whole big long, story on, but I think it's important to add context when you're doing a lesson or story like this, because it helps you all to understand who may not know, exactly about the nation and how it came about, and how, the brother minister came into power as far as being the head, of the NOI. So, I think it's important to establish that. So I'm going to get into that, give you a basic backdrop
of the nation. But let me say this real quick, and I don't know and I doubt this is confined to just our people or whatever, but it's funny how, almost with any organization, it starts out one way, but then someone's going to get disgruntled or dissatisfied. It's going to splinter and break off something else, from the original movement. I mean, it never fails with us. I mean, we went through a lot. Moses went through a lot with our people. I mean, all of what the Most High did, for them. I mean, you talking about parting the Red Sea, man. Oh my God, can you even imagine? Like, I mean, after seeing something like that, and they still was murmuring, complaining, messing with the calf gods, all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, my thing is Moses, almost all of the great men, of God went through, pushback with our people, whatever the case may be. And so one of the reasons why we in the conditions we in now, because I mean we a trip, man. I love us, but I said it before and I say it again. We represent the best and the worst both at the same time. I mean, really, right? And I don't know why that is, but there's always going to be someone that wants to go off and do their own thing, right? So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get into it, and let's get it.
Okay, like I said, you guys can always, do a search. I'm just giving a pretty much a, paraphrasing the history of how the Nation of Islam started and, so on and so forth. Now this man you're looking at, he goes by the name of Wallace Farad Muhammad, and eventually went under the moniker Master Farad Muhammad. Now, he started back in Detroit. They said around about 1930s when he started going around preaching a different type of Islam to black people. Now his history is kind of murky, as far as where he comes from. I think he might be from the Middle East somewhere. They're not really sure. But at some point, his black followers really grew with this whole with his teachings. Now, when you look at this man, at least for me, I mean, clearly his ethnicity is kind of what I would say is kind of you look and you can't really tell. I mean, he looks on the surface, he kind of looks like a white man, but his race is kind of ambiguous. But my thing is, he had a bunch of black people calling him master Farad Muhammad at a time when, first of all, you're like a white man leading a bunch of black people calling you master. Like conceptually, that always had an issue with me. And clearly, I was the only one that thought that because as we'll get into a little later on, Clarence 13X, who was a member of the Nation of Islam, he felt the same way about this Farad Muhammad. Like calling this man, this white man. They even had a picture of him for the longest time up in the mosques. All in the NOI mosque or whatever. So anyway, apparently he's the starter of the nation, and at some point, and we'll get into the next segment, he met Elijah Muhammad, who ended up kind of taking over because this man right here, this Farad Muhammad, he just disappeared off the face of the earth in 1934. Right now, there's a lot of speculation about what happened to him, this and that. I'm not getting into that, but yeah, he just basically vanished off the face of the earth. Like, but when he met Elijah, he convinced Elijah Muhammad that he was God in the flesh, and to this day, the Nation of Islam, that's a part of their ideology that this man you're looking at was God, this Farad Muhammad in the flesh. And so, yeah, that's that with that. He started it back in like 1930, the Nation of Islam. Elijah was one of his understudies, and eventually Elijah's the one who took over after him after his disappearance. All right, this person we're looking at, this is Elijah Muhammad. He was the uh, long-held leader of the Nation of Islam from really about 1934 when this Farad Muhammad disappeared up until his death in about 1975 when he turned it over to his son Warith Deen Muhammad. Now, the message of the Nation of Islam was black self-empowerment, and from my position at that time, from a social standpoint, yeah, we needed something like that to tell us that we were somebody, that we needed discipline. Got a lot of black people off of drugs, and got a lot of our sisters out of prostitution. So I mean, strictly from a social standpoint, especially at that time, I applaud that. Right, like I said, all the religious stuff, you throw in, Islam, whatever, that's another thing. But there's no denying that the Nation of Islam, was positive and uplifting to a lot of black people at a time when we needed something to be proud of. One thing I always respected about the Nation of Islam is that they were always about discipline. Unlike the 5% nation of gods and earth, let me tell you straight up, we was more gangster. We was more, I won't say savage, but we weren't as disciplined as the Nation of Islam. Even though we rode together, by the time my generation came along, a lot of the NOI, they rode with the gods, so we clicked up. So, it wasn't no thing by the time my generation came around. But I did notice that the Nation of Islam, specifically the Fruit of Islam, who's like the security force of the arm of the NOI. They were very disciplined. They stressed discipline. Which is ironic because one of the reasons allegedly that Malcolm X kind of made his decision to leave the nation was rumors of jealousy and rumors that this man had Mr. Elijah Muhammad fathered a lot of kids out of wedlock with a bunch of young Nation of Islam sisters or whatever the case may be. And of course, that was displayed in the movie. And I'm not saying that for gossip purposes, but it's a part of history, and it is what it is. If you want to research that, you can, but it's what it is. But yeah, Mr. Elijah, he took over the nation when Farad disappeared in 1934, and he held on to his position as a Nation of Islam leader until 1975, when he turned it over to his son, Warith Deen Muhammad. Okay, and this brother right here, this is Elijah Muhammad's son, Warith Deen Muhammad. At some point, just like Malcolm, he discovered, Orthodox Islam or Al-Islam, and he found out that his father's theology was not in line with Al-Islam or the Islam practice around the world, with millions and millions of Muslims. So he went to him with it and he basically confronted Elijah about what he thought. And of course, Elijah got mad and, kind of kicked him out. But then he thought about it, and he kind of brought him back, so he was right. So in his last speech, Elijah allegedly told the congregation of the nation, said, "Listen, when I go, Warith is gonna take over, and he's gonna take you to another level." Basically, he was telling them, he was trying to kind of trying to prepare them for his son Warith taking him to Al Islam, not the Nation of Islam stuff. Because one of the things Warith Deen did is he rejected the deification of Farad Muhammad, so he wouldn't know God in the flesh and all that, and he rejected that. He rejected all of the Nation of Islam stuff. When his father died, Warith Deen shut all of that down with all of the Nation of Islam stuff. But however, there was pushback. There was pushback from a lot of the people because they felt like, well, maybe so. And that could be true, what he was saying, what he was trying to do. But however, they was like, ain't no Arab Muslims came in the hood and saved us to save me. Why we gotta take on the Arab practices? That's how they saw it. 'Cause they looked at us like they had their own thing at that point. So maybe it wasn't totally like what quote unquote Orthodox or real Islam is, but there was a lot of pushback on that. So Q the brother minister, Farrakhan, who him along with some other brothers, they wasn't hearing that. When Warith Deen basically shut down the nation, that's when Mr. Farrakhan stepped in and was like, nah, we not doing the shutdown thing, you know. And so that's how basically, yeah, of course there was a inner conflict with that whole movement of shutting down the nation, and then brothers not going for it. So there was a little inner push pull with that, but that's what Warith Deen, Elijah's son, put forth when he died. He basically shut down the nation, and Farrakhan was like, nah, he revived it. So here's the brother minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, for those who by chance may not know. But like I said, when Elijah's son Warith Deen took over the nation, he shut all the nation stuff down. He stopped teaching the Nation of Islam ideology. And for a while, Brother Farrakhan, he rolled with it. He even gave Farrakhan a new name and all. But basically, at some point, the brother minister, he wasn't feeling the movement of where the nation was going, where Warith Deen was taking them. Because Warith Deen, at that point, he was an actual imam. He took on the whole theological concept of what's being a Sunni Muslim was about. And given that I've already said that Brother Farrakhan was an intelligent man. He's from New York City. I believe he's from the Bronx. He, for whatever reason, back in like 78, 79, somewhere in there, he kind of separated himself from Warith Deen, and right about 1981 or so, he started up the Nation of Islam with the whole final call thing. And he wouldn't let the movement go. He wanted that back. He wanted that old thing back, as the song said, right? And he didn't miss a beat. He basically he revived it. all the same theology with this Farad Muhammad being God in a person, God in the flesh, and all this kind of stuff. And he said that he had certain visions and from things like that. So I mean, he to this day he is still the leader of the Nation of Islam. Now, I don't know if many of you have seen this video of a very young Farrakhan, clearly distraught and upset after the death and the assassination of Malcolm X. Some things came out later. He made a speech about, what business is of anyone if we deal with a traitor the way you deal with a traitor. He said a lot of things that implied certain things, and but from what I saw, he was uh, grieving deeply over the brother's assassination. So I don't know, maybe he was just, because he's a fiery speaker, what I'm saying? He's a fiery orator and everything. So maybe at the time he was just having a moment. But he met face to face with one of Malcolm X's daughter, and he told him that the Nation of Islam didn't have nothing to do with Malcolm X's assassination, because it's always been speculated that they did, because of the jealousy and this and that, whatever. But yeah, I'm not getting too much into that. Y'all could research all that. But that's what it was. So we getting into this big speech he made back in 2010. I was just like, wow, what? Black people are the chosen children of Israel, because Malcolm X made a similar speech many years ago, saying the same thing, and it's speculated because when he made that decision, he didn't die long afterwards. So I did a video a long time ago, about that speculation. Malcolm X made a similar speech about the black people really being the lost children of Israel, whatever the case may be, and he died. He got assassinated. So I mean, it's like so many different things, to make you think, Um, but we in the next segment, well, no, not the next segment. I'm gonna get into uh real quick. Clarence the 13X, who came from the Nation of Islam, he was the founder of the Nation of Gods and Earths, and then we're gonna get into uh, the brother minister's speech about black people being the children of Israel. Haha, the nation of gods and earths, 5%ers. Um, a lot of rappers later on made this movement real popular. Well before any rapper made it popular, I was living that life. I was 5%er. We were like the step kids, if you will, of the Nation of Islam. Because the founder of the Nation of Gods and Earth, Clarence the 13X, I'm gonna get into him in a minute. Um, you know, we were, we would sit around and build, on supreme mathematics, supreme alphabets. We would manifest, what was today's math. You had to know what the math was. You all had to always know what the science was, be able to manifest at any time. You couldn't be fronting. Nation of Gods and Earth, man, we was, for all intents and purposes, we was like the wild childs. We after Clarence the 13X, there was never like a real leader of the Nation of Gods and Earth. And the Nation of Gods and Earth, it spread even quicker throughout the penal system, through the prisons. I mean, there was a lot of gods coming out, man. I mean, it got when you was a 5%er, you had a different kind of swag about you. Like it almost like a lot of dudes feared the gods, because they know, we wouldn't no joke with it. We wouldn't really trying to be, you know um well, I won't go there. But the nation of the 5% nation was started by this man, Clarence the 13X. He was from Virginia, Virginia, which a lot of Southern brothers, moved up north, whatever. He obviously joined the Nation of Islam. He was studying up under them. And what was happening was, apparently he was going around teaching the nation's lessons to people who weren't in the nation, to brothers who weren't in the nation, but he was putting his little spin on it with the supreme mathematics and things of that nature. And a lot of the higher ups in the Nation of Islam, some of the captains, I believe, they wouldn't feeling that. It was like, nah, man, you shouldn't be teaching the lessons to a bunch of 85ers. His position was like, well, I mean, how you expect them to be a 5%? If they're not taught, who they are or whatever. So basically he didn't stop teaching. He was like, nah, I'm not gonna stop. So, then he was like, at the end, and then I think one of the final straws for Clarence the 13X was that he really began having doubt, about this Farad Muhammad. And and he started not to believe that this Farad Muhammad was no divine messenger. He said, Clarence of 13 has concluded that the divinity was found in all black men. He said that the Nation of Islam's teachings to him were contradictory because they taught that God is black, but encouraged reverence of Farad Muhammad, who was not exclusively African American, looked like a white man. He didn't understand that. He wasn't feeling that. So he left and started the Nation of Gods and Earths, and so there was inner turmoil, with that movement, whatever the case may be. And he survived the shooting back in like '64 or whatever, and so that kind of really mystified his existence, to his followers and whatnot. But then he was actually killed, gunned down in 1969. His brother's been dead since 1969. And he started calling himself, Allah the Father, which I never called him that. I never called no man Allah, because that's the equivalent of a man claiming a man calling himself a higher. So that never set well in my spirit to call no man Allah, but that's what he was known as, the Father. So that's the backdrop. All right. So now, the very next segment, we're gonna get into the actual speech of the brother minister, knowing the truth that the black children are children of Israel, yet still the Nation of Islam exists in its current state. The speech was given June 26, 2010, and I'm reading an article entitled Farrakhan, Blacks Are True Children of Israel, written by Brother Richard B. Muhammad and Ashed M. Muhammad. All right. And it says, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan lays out Black America's prophetic destiny, exposes truth of Black-Jewish relations yesterday and today. And it said, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, June 26th, delved deeply into the subject, using the words of his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, biblical prophecy, and an analysis of historical data to solve the mystery and declare the prophetic children of Israel are not living in the modern Jewish state in the Middle East, but in fact are the black man and woman of America. The minister's words answered a question posed in the title of his lecture, quote, "Who are the real children of Israel?" The message was delivered before a standing room only crowd of 5,000 people crammed into the Louis Foley Jones Atlanta Civic Center, where every seat was sold in the main auditorium and where seats in an overflow room or simply a place to stand in the building were prized commodities. The Nation of Islam minister explained how scriptural references were used to frame and create social and political reality as Zionist thinkers and leaders justified and carved out the modern Jewish state. He uncovered the long history of Blacks-Jews relations and Jewish connections with control of Blacks and their impact on Black progress, and the lack of Black progress from slavery in the days of King Cotton centuries ago to control entertainers and athletes today. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Almighty God, Allah, revealed to him that the black people of America are the real children of Israel, and we are the choice of God, and that unto us he will deliver his promise, said Minister Farrakhan. This question says that somebody has usurped our position. This question says that somebody has taken the promise of God to the children of Israel and claimed it for themselves. He said, blacks in America are God's people, not those who inhabit land in Palestine, the minister said. These are the people that if you bless us, then God will take off America some of the plagues that are now coming on America that will get worse after I deliver this message tonight, said the minister with hands outstretched toward the audience. He challenged biblical and Quranic scholars to disprove what he said, offering to pay with his very life if proven false. He also delivered guidance and a warning. To all of those who feel that the children of Israel are over in that place they call Israel, you are mistaken. To the Christian right who feel that if you bless that Israel, you will be blessed, but for over 60 years, that nation has not been blessed. It's time now that a proper dialogue be set up to answer the questions that I've raised and answered. It is time for the scholars to sit down and listen to and look at scripture and prophecy to find out who is that last one that would usher in the kingdom and bring about the end of this present world. Wow. So let me just kind of stop there. with all of what I just read from this article, right? My confusion is with, because obviously 2010 was a long time ago, and to my knowledge, understanding, he hasn't really said anything much about it since that. But why would you reveal something so that was a major revelation right there? Because being a child of Israel, being an Israelite, and being a so-called Nation of Islam Muslim is not is contradictory. So I don't understand how and why the Nation of Islam still exists in its present form, the way it's always been. If you revealed and told your followers that we are the children of Israel, and I don't get that at all. I'm not in a position to question the brother's motives or whatever the case may be. I'm just questioning how you could reveal, something so powerful and so uh, life altering as that. Because I mean, he didn't say anything wrong. He really didn't. He was on point with the message. But the thing is, you know, why haven't you spoken on that sense? Why haven't you made any moves or any, to, kind of take the NOI in a different direction as far as, uh, finding out and revealing that, with children of Israel, and it's not just the Negroes, that, or the black people in Africa, of course now, we have access to so many things, access to information, but there are Negroes all over the world. The children of Israel were scattered all over the world. Now, we're not just in America. We're still very much in Africa, very deep in Africa, right? We're in Brazil. We're in Haiti. We're in Jamaica. We're in Puerto Rico. We're in the Dominican Republic. We're in Colombia. We're in Cuba. We're all over the place. Like, don't get it twisted. We're not just in America, right? If all Negroes worldwide take a DNA test, it's all going to come back E1B1A. Genetically, what that means is we are all from the same seed. We are all from the children of Israel. Period. Point blank. So and I'm no knock to him on that, but like I said, back in 2010, we sure wasn't where we are in 2021 in terms of having access to the knowledge and the understanding. You know, but you know, I don't know. What do you all think as far as him, basically coming out with something like this, but then not really taking any action on it? It's still keeping the Nation of Islam going. I mean, that's a conflict to me, and I just don't see how you can do both. Like, and I mean, if I'm a follower of his, I'm questioning. Okay, so we the children of Israel. So what does that mean exactly? Number one, and number two, why are we still, you know, masquerading as Nation of Islam as Muslims if we're the children of Israel? Keep in mind, brother Farrakhan is extremely intelligent. See, he never talks about what our ancestors went through under so-called Arab Muslims. He never talks about that. He always talks about the so-called, the black so-called Jews relationships, whatever the case may be. But you know, I'm sure he knows that Arab Muslims were our people's oppressors as well. But he never talks about that. He doesn't talk about that relationship. Let's be real. Like I said in one of my other lessons last week, let's stop romanticizing about what we think Islam is, what it was, and the brother Clarence the 13X, who started the Nation of Gods and Earth, and a lot of those other brothers was right. Like, Arab Muslim came into the hood and tried to save nobody black or whatever the case may be. I mean, if anything, you want to get technical, they had a hand in us being there. I mean, a big hand. So let's keep it real, right? So, I want to know what you all think. I just this story just fascinates me because I mean, clearly, and it doesn't shock me because I mean, the brother minister is extremely intelligent. I mean, I respect him as an elder. He's wise. A lot of the things he says, I agree with. Some of the things he says, I don't. But just like our parents, we don't always agree with everything they say either. So we can't down them or cancel them for that. Me and brother minister ain't getting canceled. You might not agree with everything he's saying. It's tight, but it's right in a lot of instances. I mean, he's the brother is wise, but I just don't know why he's still leading our people. With this whole Nation of Islam thing, knowing that after he put out the message that we are the children of Israel. So that being said, you guys, in the comment section, let me know what you think, about this story and about You know, and let's see what it do. All right. This is Dr. Ephraim Eve of another Shabbat saying Hayah by Yeshem, Yeshua HaMashiach, Baruch Atah Adonai, for now and forever. Shalom, elect.